All right, what's going on YouTube? It's your boy Rob from Rob Cologne Radio. Coming back at you one more time again. Shout out to the whole Facebook Mission Martial Arts community, but I'm going to get right into it. All right, so Nate Diaz dropped a cryptic message earlier this morning via Instagram, and I'm going to paraphrase what he said. Pretty much, Nate Diaz said, forget a rematch with Mazadov. It was over before it started. And then at the end, he said, peace out, fight game. Now, where I take from that is that Nate Diaz only wants two fights. Either a rematch with Conor McGregor or a rematch with Mazadov. And both of those guys are not in position to have those fights with him. Conor McGregor is lobbying for whatever fight he wants. And I think Mazadov is going to have another fight if he wants to keep his activity going while Nate heals up. Who knows how long it's going to take for Nate to heal up. He's talking about having some plastic surgery done to that scar tissue above his eye that was opened up, 2 fights in a row. Hopefully Nate has made good investments and he can walk away from the game if he chooses to do so. We're going to see a lot of our favorite fighters in the near future retiring. Joe Rogan had a very interesting conversation with the comedian Kevin Smith the other day on his podcast. And both guys were talking about, this boxing and other combat sports. And Joe Rogan was explaining, what it felt like to knock a guy out, what it felt like to be knocked out, and how it felt for him to talk to some of his friends and other fighters that he knew that were in combat sports. And those guys had very bad traumatic brain injuries. I don't want to see my heroes, the guys I've watched for the last 15 years, their last fights be them stretched out on the ground, shaking or, be heavily hurt. So I commend Nate Diaz for looking at the game and saying, you know what, this is my last hurrah. I would be okay with him walking out of the ring, at this one right here, walking out of the fight game at this one right here at a good stage. He had a pretty decent showing against Mazadov. He wasn't totally washed out. He had some small moments in the fight, but it may just be that time. And if you don't feel like you want to fight, just like Joe Rogan said, you don't want to half-ass fighting. Fighting is one of those things you don't half-ass. Mess around and get in there with one of these young guys, they're serious and get hurt. But it's your boy Rob from Rob Cologne Radio. I'm out. One.